Welcome to the March 28th Education and Pupil Services Committee in-person and virtual meeting. The meeting of the Education and Pupil Services Committee will please come to order. The district posted this evening's agenda to board docs at least 24 hours prior to the commencement of this meeting. Is there a motion to approve that previously posted agenda?
Second.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to offer?
There are none.
Thank you. The agenda has been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please signify by saying I oppose and state your name for the record. Those abstaining, please signify by saying I abstain and state your name for the record. The motion carried. I will now turn over the Education and Pupil Services Committee agenda to Co-Chair Director Williams.
Thank you. Dr. Kelly, please begin with an overview of your agenda items for this evening.
Good evening, everyone. So tonight, for Education and Pupil Services, we have 5 agenda items. We have the first item, which is an informational item, which we will review the Clear Touch technology implementation. The second item is the Special Education Comprehensive Plan, which again is an informational item. The third item is re-registration process. Dr. Yerson will join us for a board action required item. We will finish up with the PSSAs and another informational item, and then move to policy for tonight.
Thank you. You can please continue with agenda item number 1.
So tonight for the, we're going to review and show what we have been able to implement in each of our elementary schools, which is our Clear Touch technology. So in the room right now, I have Mr. Holinsky with me, who has been an awesome sidekick in this whole project with getting all the boards here. And I have Dr. Downing here also, who's on special assignment, who is one of our instructional coaches, but has been filling in on special assignment as a supervisor of technology. He has been providing the professional development behind using the board since we received the first board back in September at Aronimink. And since then, we're going to go through the plan and show you where else these boards are and where we're going to move in the next few months with these boards. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Downing, who is going to show you some of the highlights of the board, and then I'll finish up with some professional development, and Mr. Holinsky will finish up with the budget.
I'm excited to show you some of the highlights on this board. I'm going to keep it brief, but I'm also going to highlight the most important features that will hopefully give you an insight into what this board can do and how it can impact the learning in the classrooms. As you can see on the board, on the screen up top, we have our agenda items. I'm going to show you the features. Then we're going to take a step and go into elementary highlights. The first thing I want to show you is one unique feature about this board is it's 2-in-1. We have an Android tablet, which we're looking at now, but also on the board, it is a PC. So we have our Android tablet, which obviously is accustomed to apps. It's lightweight, it's quick. We have our integrated PC, which can do everything that your PC does. It can run any software you want to run. It can do any feature that you want to be able to do. This board can do it. It's a 2-in-1, right? Tablet and integrated PC. So if I want to go to the apps, I go to the tablet side. It's quick, easy, lightweight. Do it in a snap of snap of my fingers. If I want to access software like Snowflake, which is a heavier software, I go right to the PC, which is as easy as touching a button. Android PC. The next thing I want to highlight is the high quality video and sound. I'm going to go back to the PC because I have a video ready. I'm not going to show a lot of this video, obviously, but I want you to see, I'm going to show about 10 seconds, and I want you to see the sound quality and the video quality of this board. We all like Khan Academy.
Let's compare 2/4 and 3/4. First, let's think about what these fractions mean. 2/4 means we have some whole, and we've split it into 4 equal sections.
All right, I'm going to pause it, and I'm the teacher, and I'm also going to highlight right now 2, which is clear and responsive with 20 points of touch. So I'm the teacher. I'm showing a little video clip. We're not watching long videos in the classroom. We don't want to do that. We're highlighting instruction. I'm driving home an important feature that I want the kids to be able to understand. Over here, I can use the Android overlay, bring up the pen, and now I can highlight something I want the kids to see, or better yet, I can bring the students up to the board and they can use it. Not just one, not two, not three, not four. You can have 20, that would get a little crazy to have 20 kids up here, but you can have 20 points of touch at the same time. That's unique to this technology, and it works really well. So we have our built-in soundbar, our really clear video, and we have our 20 points of touch. Let me go back to home to show you again how easy we can move between these different features. I was on PC, now I'm on Android. I want to open up a whiteboard because I want the kids to be able to work out a word problem. I was going to have you guys come up and do something on the board, but I think that would have taken too much time. So we're going to do a problem on the board. Again, we have 20 points of touch. We could do whatever we want up on the board. And the nice thing about that is my Android overlay features always work. I want to be able to bring a spotlight onto something, right? You can make that bigger. You can make it smaller. You can come over here, change the opaqueness from that if I want to do a big reveal or something like that. We go back there. Let's say a lot of times you want to highlight something, but the kids can't see it. You want to bring attention to something. Well, this has that built in. You can make it smaller. You can move it around. Again, if I'm bringing something up for the students and I want to highlight it, I can do that with the zoom, and look how easy it is to get out of there. Easy. Now I'm back to where I was. To erase is simple. You can either erase the whole board, or you could just erase one portion of it. So right within the board, I want you to notice we have our whiteboard feature to do interactive, collaborative lessons, but it's more than that, right? When I'm teaching a lesson in a class and a teacher's teaching a lesson in the class, they can interact directly on the screen, like we showed, or I can go back to the whiteboard. Okay, so there's many different ways that you can teach at the same time. One thing that we really like is Snowflake. Snowflake, whoops, I got to X out of here. Snowflake is a software that is clear touches, and we can do many different things in Snowflake. I could bring up multiple zones. So I have one group working over there. Maybe I'm doing a whiteboard over here, and over here I'm going to show a video, and then I'm going to demonstrate it, pause it. So there's many different things that we can do. We have additional software that only works with the clear touch board. Snowflake is software that goes with the clear touch board. Another software that I want to highlight is Collage. So we have a tablet, we have our integrated PC, but what if that isn't enough, right? What if I want more? Well, you can wirelessly connect your PC to the clear touch board, or you can also wire. So if technology is having a problem, we have 2 wires in the back of the board you can hardwire in. But if I, as a teacher, and some teachers prefer this, have my lessons lined up on my computer for the day, you can then wirelessly connect to the board and demonstrate that. So I'm going to do that real quick and show one more thing. So right now I have Collage on my laptop, and all I'm going to do is put that in. We have Z8Z. So right now, I'm wirelessly connected to my computer, which is really nice. But one thing that's even nicer is I don't have to touch my computer. I can interact with my computer right here. So now my computer might be back at my desk. That's fine. And I'm interacting here for the students. And that actually works if you're hardwired, but if you're hardwired, your computer wouldn't be in the back. It would be right next to it. So those are some things that are really wonderful about this board and brings learning, hopefully, to the next level for our students. Let me bring a couple elementary highlights. So all of these features are wonderful, right? We're nodding, we're saying that's great, this is wonderful. But it doesn't really matter unless it's impacting instruction. It doesn't really matter unless it's engaging the students in the learning experience. And what we have seen is it's doing that. The kids are not only getting excited, but as we see from this board, it sort of begs interaction. It begs engagement. It encourages collaboration. So we're seeing teachers using the whiteboard. We're seeing teachers bringing students up to interact with the problem. And that's been ramped up with the implementation of this board. Teachers are also enjoying the process of having this board in the classroom. One thing teachers have commented on, it's easy to use. I've used this board a lot, so it's pretty easy for me to get up here and do this. But as the teachers get trained and they feel comfortable, they're getting up with the board and it's flowing seamlessly within their instruction. And on top of that, they love the integrated PC. Every teacher is saying, you mean I have another PC? So they have their PC here, then they have their PC in their laptop. They can use both. They could just use their laptop. But what a lot of teachers are doing is they're using both. So now they have multiple workstations, multiple ways to share their work with the students, multiple ways to prepare for their lessons. And number 3, a lot of times it's hard with technology. Technology is wonderful. I love technology. I'm assuming we all love technology. But it's hard because it's hard to know what is a good technology to use and what is just another thing. One phrase I like to go back to is something by Steve Jobs when he compared technology to a bicycle of the mind. I got a chance to talk to one of the first people that got to work with Steve Jobs. And he was at HP. And Steve Jobs was trying to get him to come to Apple. So what Steve Jobs did was he dropped off one of the first PCs at his house. Friday afternoon, he had a 6-year-old son, and he said, I'll pick it up on Monday. This guy was not leaving HP, but on Monday, he left HP. Because that PC was a bicycle of the mind. It encouraged the student, their son, to interact, to create. And I think this does something similar, right? It encourages creation. It's easy to use. It's simple with the assimilation and the implementation. So it's been really wonderful. We have a couple pictures up on the screen. So I'm glad that this one got showed. So with our K2 students in our special ed rooms, this board can actually go flat. And this moves up and down. So remember that software? We're not going to get into now. We'd have to come back for a PD. Yeah, we all want this. If he dropped this off at my house, and this can go flat, and then we can utilize the Snowflake software. We can utilize the Snowflake software to do games and interaction. This next slide is students. You can see it. They're working on a math problem. They're interacting. They're coming up to the board. They're being able to interact and see what they're able to do. I think we have one more. That's in action. That's the board flat. And you notice we have 4 quadrants. So we have 4 different students or 4 different groups I've seen working on different activities and games that drive home instruction in the classroom. These aren't extra things. Those students there, we're doing a unit on fractions. And all of these games are different games about fractions to drive home that instructional learning objective. I think that might be it. Okay, I'm going to pass it over. But before I pass it over to Dr. Kelly, this technology is great, but working and having the leadership and vision of Dr. Kelly and Bob Holinsky has been wonderful. It's been a pleasure to work alongside of them and collaborate with them, and their work and guidance has been instrumental. So I thank you for that. And beyond them, on top of them, the icing on the cake is the whole IT team, constantly working to troubleshoot any issue that's come up. This is a wonderful technology, but there's a lot of work that goes behind the scenes. And they are one phone call away, one email away, or usually in front of the phone call, in front of the email. So it's been wonderful, and I want to pass it over to Dr. Kelly. Thanks.
Thank you, Matt. So how did we get to this point, and how are we going to move forward? So professional development has been a key piece in all of this, because you do need to be able to navigate those pieces that Dr. Downing was just sharing. So we had a train the trainer model for our elementary select teachers, as well as administrators and technicians. Bob and I were also part of that training, and that happened in early January. In February, during our February 10th PD, you know, the one that kept moving back and forth, we had an 80-minute hands-on training for teachers, very similar to what we experienced from the 17th to the 19th, but we chunked the training so that they weren't learning too much at one time, because there is a lot to learn, and we didn't want to overwhelm anybody that was not ready to deal with the next piece of technology. On May 16th of this year, we'll follow up with those teachers, but it will be more for advanced users, and we'll put them on a pathway of what training they are ready to see. So right now, that is what is happening at our elementary schools. We did not, though, forget about our secondary schools, and those boards will be coming into the secondary schools beginning in June and July. Right, once we get those orders in. We're going to start with an administrative training in June, that the administrators will be able to know the basic things. What should they be seeing in the classroom when they go in, and how can they use it in their faculty meetings for data reviews, all of those pieces. So we'll do that on June 15th. In June 20th and 21st, we'll have another training for any other elementary teachers that want another opportunity to learn a little bit more. So we're really rolling this out in phases, not to overwhelm anybody, but that they feel comfortable in using the technology. The secondary teachers will be invited in August for for their first paid PD. So we'll follow the same phase rollout that we did with the elementary teachers. And then in August, all the secondary teachers will be trained during our normal PD calendar.
Okay, so as we talked about the budget, one of the things we found out back in beginning of school, when Aronimink was starting to open up, we needed to put some devices in place. So we were first going to put interactive projectors in there, but then these came in front of us, and we said, let's look at this. And then had Dr. McGarry come down, and he said it was nice and easy to do that. We had some teachers that pulled out of the Aronimink classroom right away and had them come in and look at it to make sure that was a go.
It's a little more complicated than that conversation. I think we were embroiled in a pretty serious meeting in my office, and it was like, we need to make a decision now because we're hardwiring the school, and what are we going to do? And, you know, I am not in a first, second, third, fourth grade classroom. So I feel, you know, although there are times when you do have to make decisions as a superintendent of the school district, I didn't think I should be making this decision alone. So we interrupted Aronimink for the day. And we pulled Aronimink teachers in to what is now no longer the library. And we had this technology. We called them down into the room, and we were playing with this technology, and they were blown away by this technology to put this in the school district. And Matt, you know, thank you for all the PD that you've done and stepping up over the last really year and a half to 2 years. They love it. It's been a blessing. We are trying to get it into high school for scheduling for James Finch and his office. And the real game plan then became, as you see on the wall, Craig and I were together, and I said, look, we can't do this just at a new school. We've got to go back and look at the ESSER conversation and the funding and take those dollars and make this happen throughout the district.
Yeah, so the initial order was the 19 for Aronimink, and then the second order was for all the other elementary schools. So far, we ordered 354 devices, and it's been installing them. We're still waiting for a partial of that order to come in. 75 more of them, of these K-2 boards, are due to come in the next couple of weeks, and so we should get those installed. And then Matt's been going around to the middle schools and high school and verifying all the classrooms, and make sure we have all the classrooms identified, making sure which ones are special ed, which ones are regular classrooms, so we get the right device into those classrooms. So this is the 65-inch model, and there's a 75-inch model. The 75-inch model is usually for the bigger kids, and then that's a fixed stand. But again, the nice thing about these, we find out, is we can move them around the rooms. Every room has wireless in them, and then so the teacher's not geared towards how they set up their classroom. They can take and move them for different sessions throughout the course of the day. The other nice, I'm sorry, Dan, go ahead.
Are these like something that can't break easily? And the gentleman was repeatedly punching the screen to show that they are not really something that can be broken, which was a concern of mine. You get this technology. Yeah, that's all we need on camera is me. Yeah, I'm not taking the bait. But they are also
Very,
strong.
very durable, and they won't tip over, and they're very strong. Going from there. But the other nice thing about these, we have a 5-year warranty on these. Most of our projectors won't even last that long. But the company has shown us that they've had some of their original devices out there for over 10 years at this point. So instead of us having to replace an interactive projector every couple of years, we can go with one of these and last a good long time for our teachers and our staff. And they are more energy efficient than our other projectors, which is, some soft costs we're not going to see up front, but we'll see that in the long term as we go into things. So the secondary order, we're anticipating another 320 of the 75-inch ones, another 65, or another 33 of the 65-inch ones to put that order in real soon so we can get that delivered for over the summertime for the rest of the PD that Dr. Kelly has planned for going in there. The secondary libraries, just so you're aware of that, we're putting 5 in the high school library and 3 in each middle school library as we move forward. So Dr. Kelly has a plan how that's going to be laid out. So that's how we're going to get them on order. So at that point, I'll take any questions for Dr.
Thank you. Probably the most exciting presentation I've seen in a long time. I'll just ask my technical questions first. Gentlemen, can he come back up? I just had a, oh, there he is. I'm looking behind. The picture sitting back there. You said it could be hardwired, right, to the back of the, what's the connection? Is it, you don't have to turn it around. Just tell me, is it HDMI or?
It's a HDMI with a USB, so the USB allows the connectivity to touch enabled, and then it's just an HDMI.
Got it. Okay.
So we try to tell them to roll these up nice and keep them back here.
Yes, cable management is important. Second question was about the whiteboard. When you did a little drawing, what formats can you save that in? Is it like you can export it to JPEGs, PDFs? Just curious.
Great question. I was going to hit on that, and I forgot. Mm-hmm. The great thing about that is if we're in the PC, you can save that as a PDF, and then you can put it into Schoology, export it. So if you're doing something a little bit more intricate on the board that you want to save for a long term, or if you want to send it home to someone that's sick, it's really easy. You save it, it goes right on the PC, and then you can bring that up and send it wherever.
Thank you. Thanks. Great. Good answer. That's what I wanted to hear. Last, I need pricing because I want one for my home office. So, but no, thank you. Great presentation, and I'm excited. I'm excited. I did see these at Bywood already when I was judging the leprechaun contest, and I seen these in the classroom. But they was using them in conjunction with the projectors. So the teachers didn't want to part with either one. They loved the new stuff, but they didn't want to part with the projectors. So I've seen teachers utilizing everything at their disposal efficiently and effectively.
So we have given the teachers back their whiteboard so they can use it as a chalkboard type of thing. Before, when they had to use it for their presentation, they were stuck with just using it for that. But now they use this and in conjunction with the whiteboard to do other things.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. That's all I have.
Could you repeat that again about the whiteboard? Like, are they, because I know before the smartboard would be in front of the whiteboard and, you can move around, or sometimes it was stationary. So you're saying that it's located in different sections, so now they have additional whiteboard space? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, so with these in the classroom, we have not taken down their original whiteboards. The interactive projectors, we had to put them in there. We had to buy the projector and then put a whiteboard up on the wall, which took a lot of space off of their chalkboard or anything they could write in front of the room. So we're not taking that down, so they can still use that, and then they still have the clear touch board to do with the educational part.
Okay, thank you. Are we looking into installing pull-down screens instead? Or is that, we're just going to keep both for now?
We don't need to put pull-down screens in there because you can have the board, they can see that from the back of the room. We were going to eventually take down the projectors and see if there's some resale value, if we're not going to use them anymore.
Okay.
But we want to get all the boards in the classrooms first.
I just wanted to make one final comment. Thank you so much for getting these for the district. I currently use a similar board in my classrooms, been using it all year, and have kindergarten, and they love it. They come up to the board and write on it, do it for math, ELA, and I use the whiteboard that's right on my board on this screen. So I just click on whiteboard and then draw on it the same way I would on my regular whiteboard. So I'm just a testament. It's a great product to have in the classroom for young people and old people alike. So thank you. We can move on to agenda item number 2. Okay.
Thank you. The second item is the Special Education Comprehensive Plan. Mr. Marshallak will be, oh, there he is. Mr. Marshallak will be joining for a presentation on the comp plan. This is an informational item.
All right, good evening, everyone. So this is a follow-up to our initial presentation. I think it was in November. We're in year 3 of our special education plan, comprehensive plan, and this is our planning year. So it is due on May 1st of 2023. So we spent the past couple of months going back to December pulling together our school teams, our parent teams, and pulling together our new comprehensive plan for special education. Again, to remind us, every 3 years we have to submit a plan to the state. It's in the same cycle or similar cycle as our district comprehensive plan. We're in fact in phase 2 for the special ed plan and, phase 3 for special ed plan, phase 2 for the comprehensive plan. So we're a year ahead in special education. That's because of the pandemic. We didn't meet the timeline for an extension, so we're a little bit off. We were ahead of the game back in 2020, if you remember. So we didn't get the extension. But at any rate, so tonight starts our 28-day review with the draft plan. And I'll go through some basic information about what the plan means, why we have one, and then the planning process and some of the new pieces that were not in existence the last time we approved the plan 3 years ago. This is taken from the Department of Education. Again, it talks about the general provisions of the special ed plan, what it details, why we have to have one in place. But again, it's what the district has provided for our families and our students who have an IEP and have special education needs. Discusses placement options, discusses how students are serviced within the school buildings and outside of the school building as well. If we were to have any types of students who were serviced in a residential facility, which we do not have, we would provide the oversight for those programs as well as the LEA, and it would detail that program as well in this plan. As you can see, it is referenced in Chapter 4 of the PA State Code for comprehensive plans, and also Chapter 14, which is specific to special education in Pennsylvania. So in both of those state laws, it's referenced in both of them, under Chapter 4 and Chapter 14, that is a requirement, is mandated. And again, we follow the same process that we have in the past couple of years, and closely adhering to the requirements in both of those areas. So I can't see that too far, so I'm going to pull my computer up. My glasses broke. The one arm fell off. Not these are reading glasses. But I can't find my other pair, so I can't see.
Maybe they're in the peanut butter jar.
Maybe. Funny thing is, my dad's an optometrist too. The funny thing, so I still have no glasses. All right, so here we go. All right, so the new for this year, there are some different aspects of the plan that we had to evaluate and review. The last time it was more built on what our plan looks like, what our school looks like, what do we offer as services. In this planning process, they talked about, or they want us to review and talk about these areas in particular. So our identification method, which we'll get to, which is really how we identify students. And really, there's one of two ways we can do that, either what's called the discrepancy model, the difference between achievement and IQ, or through the RTI model, which is identifying students before they fail through a state-approved process. We do not use the RTI model, even though we have an RTI or MTSS system in place. They're kind of different in the sense of how we identify students for special education, but we do use the discrepancy model. We did have a school psychologist on the planning team who did speak to this and really walk the team through what all this means. The next part is disproportionality. This is new for this planning period. So again, there are three areas that you can have a disproportionality, one of which is placement, placing students in more restrictive settings, discipline, and identification. This is for the federal designation for disproportionality, not the state designation. Non-resident oversight, which we talked about, which will be students who do not live in Upper Darby but are placed here in a residential facility. And we are then the host LEA, which we do not have any facilities like that in Upper Darby. Incarcerated students oversight. So again, if we had a facility within our LEA, like, for example, George W. Hill, the Garner Valley is the LEA, and the IU then services the students who are placed or who do spend time in George W. Hill, or formerly when we had a juvenile detention center that was housed in that location. So therefore, that school district serves as the LEA. We do not have anything here, so therefore we don't have that oversight. However, we do contribute and share records back and forth with any of our students who happen to have to be incarcerated at George W. Hill or otherwise. A big part of the plan, which was LRE, least restricted environment, was really going through and how do we ensure that our students are placed in their LRE to best service their needs. So it talked about from general education all the way through to full-time placements. What does our plan look like? And what do we provide our students here in the school district? The very bottom there, I didn't hyperlink it, but you can look at it, and it's best that you would copy and paste it into your browser if you wanted to review it. This is the Penn Data Report that's published every single year, and it is the data source for this comprehensive plan. So this, alongside or along with the cyclical monitoring we went through 2 years ago, are the data that we use to then develop our goals, develop our systems we're going to talk about in this comprehensive plan. New for this planning process, did not have us use this in prior years. So it's a new tool for us to use. It's been in existence, but it's new for this planning process. But at any rate, it gives us information to then plan for, and it's a way to evaluate the district in terms of data and where we measure compared to the state with rates of LRE, for example, and other indicators comparing us to other districts in our state. PBS, positive behavior support's another area that was a big part of the plan. Talk about what does that look like, what do our policy procedures look like within our school district, and how are we ensuring that our students have access to that support within their IEP. Intensive interagency. This is something new as well. It's been in existence for a long time, but new for this planning process. This talks about has us talk about what is our process for finding placements for students who become hard to place. So in other words, if we have any student in our district who we cannot meet their needs in our district, but therefore they sometimes are so complex and have very, very unique needs, some outside placements still can't meet their needs either. So we might need assistance from the state to come in and help the team pull together everyone that sits at the table and talks about what can be the best placement for this child. And they assist with making referrals and finding a placement for that student. It's a way for Patton and for the Bureau of Special Ed to help LEAs with students who they call hard to place. A real big part of the plan, which I'll give a lot of credit to James Nielsen and Jen Jones, who will introduce them in a few minutes, was the educational profile. This is almost an 80-page document. We have to go through every single teacher, it's called a program profile, and list their caseload as it stands right now. And also what the educational environment looks like in terms of space, classroom space, square footage. Does it meet the requirements under Chapter 14? And every classroom, every teacher has to have a program profile, specifically written out and detailed. And then every summer, that changes. So if caseloads switch over the summer, which they do, they switch all the time, we then have to update this, what they call a SEPRIN, or this profile page, and then resubmit it to the state to get it reapproved. Not reapproved, but get it resubmitted. Anytime there's an addition to an FTE, we have to update the plan. A reduction of FTE, we have to update the plan. Anytime a student or a teacher might have a split caseload, let's say 0.5 learning support, 0.5 emotional support, It has to be listed in this program profile, but very, very detailed work to go through this. And then maintenance of who those people are and turn them out within our internal documents to make sure we have accurate records for who these individuals are who are serving as FTEs in our district. Special ed support services, these are our individuals who are not, do not carry caseloads. For example, physical therapists, occupational therapists, not our speech and language therapists, they do carry a caseload. I'm on there, for example, our supervisor on there. Anyone who supports the special ed program who does not carry a caseload are listed in this field. Board certified behavior analysts who we contract with are all listed in this area. And the last part was another big part that we got feedback from everyone as part of the planning process was professional development. This document, this 3-year document, prepares and plans our 3-year PD plan for special education services, for not only for our teachers, but for our parents, for our staff, people like me, for our entire districts. We detail this out in this plan here, and then we follow through and see it through each year as part of the plan. Next slide. So the 3 areas that were in a combination with the Penn data report and our cyclical monitoring were 3 areas that we have to address and provide some improvement. One of which was secondary transition, indicator 13, which is transition to post-secondary education. There's a couple errors they found in our monitoring, which was 2 years ago. One of them was simply not inviting the student to the IEP meeting. If we didn't check that box, even if they were invited, if we didn't check a certain box, they target us with that because it's that specific. But this is also a very, very challenging part of the IEP to really fully understand and do really well with. However, I would argue the most important part of the IEP for students who are 14 or older, because it does help them plan what they're going to do after high school and see it through. So I'm glad it was an area we were targeting because it's an area we should be improving in every single year to get better at this for our kids, to make sure they're getting off to post-secondary life on the right step. Assessment, indicator 3. This was part of the Penn data reporting. This, again, is based on state tests. The PSSA, which is alternate standards, the PSSA, and then, of course, the PSSA and Keystone exams. So in this area, we had certain grade levels did not meet the range of improvement that is expected that the state rate sets for certain areas in ELA and math. So not every grade span, but specific grade spans. We're targeting those indicators and putting plans in place. And this is an example of what we're putting in place as part of the plan too. It's not everything. I want to get you a small taste of what we did talk about is putting into place or reevaluating to then enhance to improve in these areas. And this one in particular is use of MTSS strategies to support students in those areas, in the specific areas. The last one is educational environments, indicator 5. Just to give you an idea too, when I say indicators, what they are, this is part of what they call the state performance plan. And every LEA or every state has to report out to the federal government on how their state is performing in the area of special education using data through the IEP process and the child count, which is something we collect every December 1st using our current numbers in our special education programs of our students. But to give an example, graduation rates is an indicator. Are we meeting the expectations? And we are, just so you know, we are meeting for our special ed students. Dropout rates, student participation in statewide assessments, suspension expulsion rates is indicator 4, placement indicator 5. So to give you an idea of what they, and you can find this in the Penn data report as well, of what all the indicators mean and what their descriptions are. But that's what we then provide to the state who evaluates us, and then the state gets evaluated by the federal government, and are we meeting expectations in the area of special education. But again, that was largely what we used to do this. But indicator 5 is educational environments, to make sure we are placing students in the LRE. We are not up to the state level of from kids in the least restricted environment in terms of 80% or more in the general ed environment. We're about 56%, and the state rate's about 64%. So we're not too far behind, but we're still not there yet. So therefore, we're targeted as not meeting expectations in an area and forced to put a plan in place every year to improve that. And we have improved over the years, just to make sure we're clear on that. It's not that we've gone backwards or have fallen behind. We've made gradual improvements, which again and I've said this to the teachers and the parents, we don't want to misrepresent and just make a number and say, hey, we met the target because we want to fudge the numbers in our IEPs. Let's do it the right way. And if it's incremental over the years, fine. But let's make progress every single year and do it the right way and do what's best for our kids. But that's one area we're focusing on. We have been focusing on, by the way, since I've been in this position for the past 6-7 years. It's always been an area of improvement for LRE. And I think it's a welcomed, improvement, area of improvement. And the last two areas this comes from our comprehensive cyclical monitoring, or the 11A, which is the number of students in areas who have autism and SLD, specific learning disability, in outside placements. So one of the things we're looking at is doing a self-audit of all those students who might have a learning disability. Why are they placed outside? Like, what is it? Why are their needs so great that we can't meet them in our own district? So we're doing a self-audit of that to make sure that we're doing everything right to make sure we can improve in that area. And then, of course, LRE for FSA number 11. Again, coming from the cyclical monitoring it aligns with indicator 5 for LRE as well. So the two in the same, in this area, we're having all of our teachers who have a learning support caseload to go through what they call an SAS toolkit, which is a standard supplementary aids and services toolkit with every family in IEP meeting to try to find ways to get them more included in the general ed environment. So they have to do it for at least 2 students on their caseload every year, and then every subsequent year, 2 new students, and submit that to us so we can review it to make sure it's being done the right way, and we are, in fact, making progress in that area. That's one of the probably the hottest topics, in how to get students more included in their environment is using this, we call it SAS toolkit, SAS toolkit. So our planning committee, before I get through this, to give credit, they're all here tonight. James Nielsen is our supervisor of special education. Raise your hand, James. Of our high school programs. Melissa Hardis is our special ed supervisor of our middle school programming. Tom Fitty is one of our special ed supervisors for our elementary programming. Megan McCoach is getting married this weekend, so she's at our rehearsal dinner tonight. She couldn't make it. She wanted to be here, believe it or not, for to show up and show her face. I said, get out of here, go back, and you'll be fine. She works really, really. Yeah, she wanted to do that. Come show her face and be here for the presentation, then go back. I said, get out of here. Can't do that. And then Jen Jones is our supervisor. She oversees outside placements, our related services, gifted support services, and some other things. She helps out with other areas as well. But these guys really did the bulk of the work. I'm just kind of the face here of doing this presentation, but they really did the bulk of the work. And they met with groups of parents and teachers and went through and took a deep dive in every area of this plan. Pulled out the data, had long conversations, talked to parents about what it all means. What do these acronyms mean? What does all this language mean in the special ed plan? And with teachers, they're giving pushback to the team here. Like, well, this doesn't make sense. Why are we doing it this way? And they had those good conversations at the planning meetings to talk about why we do the things we do the way that we do them here. But in the end, everyone had a say in what this plan was going to look like. So it had representation from every single facet of this district: general ed teachers, special ed teachers, psychologists, parents. Some of the parents brought their students with them to be part of the planning process and hear what's going on. We had some really good conversations about professional development. What do parents need? What do we need as teachers and professional staff? You can see it's a large list of people who contributed and who were able. They didn't come to every meeting, and of course that was okay. But they did the best they could, and they really contributed to this process, which is really cool to see. And the very last slide is, again, this is a 28-day review. So that did not change for this planning process. So starting today, it's been on board docs, and we're going to post it on our district website in multiple places for the 28-day review. We're going to come back in April to do a real quick update like we did in the prior planning process. In the event there are any revisions based on feedback from the public, we'll present it that evening, no more than 5 minutes, I hope. And then it's submitted to the Department of Ed by May 1st with assurances from our Board of Directors, which we'll talk about that later when April comes around. Same email address that we've used to solicit interest for the planning process. We're having it up there for feedback. Of course, you can always email me directly or any one of the team members on here as well. But again, this is the primary tool we'd like you to use for providing feedback on the special ed plan. So we are going to be voting on at the April 28th, 25th, excuse me, committee meeting for a special voting meeting. So this is for board action, at the next committee meeting, not in April regular meeting, but in the board committee meeting in April 25th. Okay, any questions from anyone from the board?
Yes, just a brief one. First, thank you to the entire planning committee, those that are here and those that aren't here. Thank you for your work. It definitely shows that you put a lot of work and time into it, so thank you for that. I just had a question about the indicators that you mentioned on one of the slides. Is that, those indicators is that decided by the Pennsylvania Department of Education?
Right, so they have the autonomy to decide what they want to evaluate from LEAs, and then they provide that to the federal government. The federal government gives them the expectations, they kind of do what they want to do, they get it approved, and then they give it to us to then monitor us, and then feed it back up to them, which goes back up to the federal government.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have. Thanks.
I just had a quick question. When the plan was developed, was it developed in mind with the resources that we have available, or in the best case scenario where we're properly funded and we have everything from everyone that we need, that we are due?
So that's a good question. So we always plan for what's in the best interest of the kid. I'm sorry, I'm trying to turn my back to you. What's in the best interest of the children. So no matter what that is, we have a very, very rigorous budgeting process and how we approve resources for our special ed students. And I've said this before, to the parents, and these guys know this too. We're not going to turn away from what the student needs. So, we'll make it work somehow, some way. If it's a matter of finding other ways to get that item approved or get that item, to a student, we're going to do it. But we use every possible resource that's available to us to make sure it does happen. We don't cut corners. So we are planning with the perfect world in mind, but that is what we have in place, is the perfect world, if that makes sense. We are significantly underfunded, don't get me wrong, but we are very smart about how we use our money and how we make things happen. And sometimes you might have to pay Peter to pay Paul at some time, or steal from Peter to pay Paul, but we always do what's best for our kids.
I just wanted to thank you for the hard work on this plan. As you know, special education is something that's really important to me and to our district and to every family that has to experience that. And I know that you take it very seriously, and you have really changed the environment here for special education families. And I know that there's always continuous improvement, but of the plan, if you could just sort of, so to speak, give us in the community sort of a cliff notes, like what is your main focus for this next set of years?
So really, and I'll go back to the LRA. I think we need to really be looking at where do our students learn the best? What are we doing what's best for our students? Not just because it's the focus of PA and the federal law, but we at the same time that's happening, we should be working on what can we give our teachers to be more prepared to work with our students in the LRA. So it's not just putting a student into their classroom and say, good luck, teach them. But if we're going to do that, which we know it's best for kids, we have to provide the support and training for our teachers, make sure that they are prepared to meet the needs of our children. And put our systems in place that if we can't just, and Tom Fiddy, I'll give him credit, we can't move kids or do things for kids based on a feeling. We got to have data to support it, right? We got to have the information to support it. So with putting our systems in place, which using our indicators to put those systems in place, we can then best evaluate how we move kids in and out of our programs to get them to the right place and get the right support for our teachers at the same time.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
I know we talked before, Mr. Marshallak, about being able to capture the early intervention students who are coming in. Has there been any updates with that?
So we get continuous updates from the team on doing that. So we have, I want to say, close to over 100 students who we've been meeting with and programming for. We're still in our final stages of preparing our budget for that area, but we think we're in a pretty good spot. We're working with the IU on doing a community day, with having our team go out there. Mr. Monahan, you'll see in a few minutes, Mr. Fiddy, some other team members will be out there meeting with families, getting them registered on the spot at the IU. And getting them so they're now not waiting until August or September, or even if we know who these kids are and they might not be part of an early intervention program yet, let's get them aware of who they are now and get them and working with us. So we've taken steps with the IU who've been great with working with our team to get that in place. So we feel like we're in a much better place than we have been in previous years, but again, that's a work in progress, as you know, every single year. It's a big task.
Sorry that I had to step out. First, I do want to say to the special ed team, I don't know, Ed, if you introduced them already in the back of the room, but I want to say thank you for all that you do in the school district. It means a lot. The time, the hours, the amount of energy. I think, Ed's got a crew that's also very supportive of you and believes in you. I think they would all spend countless hours above and beyond the school day strictly out of loyalty to you, which I think speaks to your leadership. I also hope that you never leave. As long as I'm still around, you stick around. We are blessed to have Ed Marshalak in the school district. This is a lot of complicated information. Very, very smart guy. He's presented publicly, and I think he's probably one of the best in the county, if not the best in the county. He could be a superintendent one day. I don't know if he's, decided to ever consider that that step. But we're blessed to have you. Thank you for all the work that you do here in the district and to the team. A lot of hours, a lot of very complicated cases, and most of the time it's very sensitive conversations that you're having with families, and they're not easy families, and some of our families also need special education supports and services. So I don't want that to get lost in this conversation, that you take a lot of time and energy. I walked into a meeting today, and I think, James, I heard you say there's been 5 or 6 different meetings just with that family over a period of time. So I appreciate the time and effort that you guys do put into the district here. Melissa, I see you over there as well. So, Ed, thanks a lot for what you do.
Yeah, I just want to echo what Dr. McGarry said. I couldn't do what I'm doing here today without those guys over there, and they've been absolutely tremendous, and I'm going to publicly thank them for not just this year, but the years of service they've provided, to this district. Just the countless hours and work, and they're just awesome to work with. So I'm very lucky to be here with them.
We can move on to agenda item number 3.
The third agenda item will require board action. It's the re-registration process. Dr. Brian Yerson and Mr. Ed Monahan will be coming up to review the re-registration process for the 23-24 school year.
Thank you, Dr. Kelly. Good evening, Dr. McGarry, Board President Brown, Vice President Fields, school board members, staff, students, and parents, and other members of our community. My name is Brian Yerson, and I'm the Director of Pupil Services for the Upper Darby School District. I'm joined tonight by Ed Monahan, our Supervisor of Central Registration. We're going to present to you our proposed plan for the re-registration of students for the 23-24 school year. Our agenda tonight is to talk about the process, the timeline, our communication, and the impact that we could see in August.
Good evening, and thank you for having us here tonight. I'll start off with the actual process of the re-registration. So first of all, who? We would like to re-register the rising 6th graders and also the rising 9th graders. What? Re-registration of students transitioning from our elementary schools to our middle schools and from our middle schools to our high school. Where? Online and in person, and when, starting April 13th, and why, to ensure the students transition into our middle schools and high schools or Upper Darby School District residents.
Our timeline and communication plan. Obviously, tonight we're presenting this to the school board for board action next at our board meeting. We are going to send out communication through our Principals Wednesday messages, through our offices, via email and phone calls. And we want to make this process as simple as possible. So Ed alluded to it in his previous slide, but we are going to create an email address for families to utilize to send in the re-registration information. We are going to have it on our website, and we're going to have hours and potentially extend those hours over the summer to support our families in making this happen. And it's going to be an abridged version of our current registration process. So they'll be filling out a form and providing, 2 pieces of information to us. We're going to be communicating this out, and what we don't want to do is we don't want to pester our families who have already gone through the process. So we want to make sure that we're creating an updated list of who has re-registered and who hasn't. So when we send these reoccurring emails and phone calls to the families, it's only going to that targeted group of rising 6th and 9th grade students. So if they haven't done it, they're getting that information. If they have done it, they're not. If you can go to the next slide. We're going to continue this process. We're going to reevaluate where we are towards the end of May, the middle of May. We're going to go out to our middle schools to provide an opportunity for families to come to a school that's closer to their homes rather than just Upper Darby High School in the central registration office. And then we'll see where we're at from there, if we have to have a Saturday or evening event to engage our families that way. We're very hopeful. I think the last time that this happened was the 16-17 school year. And we are hopeful that now with the online tools and resources that our families have, it'll be a much easier process for them to engage with us, and that we'll see, this be a smooth process moving forward.
And then the impact on August. So the families that have not re-registered for the first day of school, the child will receive a letter on the first day of school with information about how to do the re-registration process. A parent link call will also go out with an email, be sent notifying the parents that this letter is going home with the students. And then lastly, which is the last resort, would be in October, the district will begin to hold disenrollment hearings for families that have not complied with the re-registration process. Any questions?
So to clarify then, those who have not re-registered, will they then be assigned a classroom?
Yes, they will. They will be coming into school. If it's 6th grade in first period, they'll be getting a letter in their first period class. We'll then send out a email and a phone call to those families on the first day of school. Again, they'll be getting them weekly throughout the summer. So they need to come in, or we're going to begin holding disenrollment hearings come October. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, I think a key part of that question, I think, in this presentation is that due process rights don't go away, whether it's discipline or registration. Once we allow a student to enroll in the school district, I know because I've worked with Ed previously, and I used to do this every single year, you have to provide notice of due process. At that point in time, the burden, different than in other cases, is on the family to prove their residency. So as long we can't just kick you out to kick you out. We would hold a hearing asking you to comply with that. If you can prove that you are a resident, then you remain. But just because you did not do the re-registration process does not mean we can disenroll you. We still have to give you notice of a hearing to come in and prove that you're a resident of the school district, and that's why that window in October is there. There's a different process, which is called a 10-day drop, depending on age and circumstances. There are some students who over the summer leave, don't notify us, and they don't show up for the first 10, 15 days of school. That's a whole different process. Kyle?
Yeah, there are a fair number of districts that hold those hearings in August instead of October, just putting that out there, so that the student doesn't end up starting the school year and then deciding they need to be moved to a different district because they actually aren't residents of the district. It will obviously cause some dislocation if you do it in October instead.
So the reason for the April timeline is hopefully we get the parents to come out between April and July before we really get into late July and August, where it really gets very busy down there. So the idea is hopefully we get the parents to come out and do that. And the other thing is our majority of our registrations, I'm going to guess 65 to 70% now, especially since the pandemic, are done online. So it's really taken away the parent having to come up and wait in lines and being in 90-degree heat in August. We've really simplified it for them. I mean, and again, to Brian's point, as far as the registration process, it's basically just show us your 2 proofs of residency and your identification to prove it's you, and that's it. Like, you can email us, take a picture of it, and we're done with it. I mean, if we had any concerns, we would obviously send an attendance officer out to follow up, but the process is going to be pretty simple for the people.
And I appreciate that, Kyle. We've done it for a long time. The hard part is compliance in many ways. And having dealt with the Education Law Center for years, when I first walked into an assistant superintendent's job, we were kind of on high alert before I walked in as an assistant superintendent. We were regularly dealing with Education Law Center cases where questioning of due process was taking place, communication, families moving, saying they didn't get the information because there's a lot of intra-community moving from place to place. We have over 1,000 multiple occupancies here in the school district, not to mention homelessness and foster care. So it's a little bit complicated here in comparison to some other places given the size and the volume. And the other complicated factor is we're talking about, at a minimum, 1,800 kids at one time. So going to 5th to 6th grade is 900 students in a grade span. And then from 8th to 9th grade is another 900 students. So that's 1,800 students that their registration office is going to have to handle, on top of the fact that Upper Darby High School on average gets 450 to 500 brand new registrations each summer just to the high school. So Ed's office, I think what you're presenting to us is, realistically, here's the best timeline we can get to handle all of this, given the fact that I think there's only 4 attendance officers out of registration. And on average, I think the last time I checked, you're handling over almost 400 cases of residency at a time.
That's right.
Okay, so just to reiterate, you're saying first of all, this timeline is more realistic for us because of the volume, but I'm also hearing that we think that this timeline is going to reduce the number of legal challenges we would face. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, what I'm hearing Kyle say is you could do this in August if you wanted to and be fine. And I understand and respect the concept of October, and that might not be best for a kid that we find out that's not properly living in the school district. And there's process and procedures that we have for that. Over the course of the year, I think this year when I talked to Brian, this year there's been almost 400 investigations resulting in almost 100 or more students who were, through a different process, found to not be residents in the school district, correct?
That is true. That is true. So basically, we've closed out 333 investigations since the beginning of school up to today. Now, when I say investigations, we get a lot of information from a lot of different sources. It could come from the school itself, it could come from the bus department, it could come from a phone call. So we obviously have to follow and check out all the information we're getting. Of them 333, we found 87 children not to live here in the district. Out of them 87 children, due to, again, I have a tremendous staff in central registration. I have guys that know how to do their job. They're investigators, they have experience. We've only gone to a disenrollment hearing once. So 86 cases were solved by parents admitting they lived out of district, signing a withdrawal. So the district doesn't need to go to the hearing, invest the money in the cost of a hearing. To Dr. McGarry's point earlier, when we first did this, we were in hearings a lot, but we've learned a lot over the years.
I would say that my first year in central office, I inherited re-registering the entire Upper Darby High School, 4,000 students registered in a 2-month window, and I sat in this room. We set up the other room with copiers and printers, probably 5.5 hours a day, all the way through until February. And it was a learning curve, which resulted in inheriting a lot of Education Law Center. It was a great professional development for me. I'll leave it at that. And I think this process now is, to be clear, in today's environment, this is a sensitive topic. We're not trying to make it difficult on people, but I will say to you that there's a lot of concern and question from residents, local law enforcement, community members, and teachers and staff that there may be students that have not properly met registration attending schools in the district, and that's a concern. And so we thought as an organization we would bring back, realistically, a registration process, starting it sooner in April, and then moving its way into the beginning of the year, providing as much latitude for people to get it right as possible. To Kyle's point, we'll certainly look at trying to hit an August mile marker. The problem becomes when I try to impress upon people the volume. Kindergarten registration really doesn't get fully completed, no matter how much communication we start to do now, Saturdays, weekends, doing it at the schools. The number of folks that comply usually doesn't happen until almost the first day or the first month or 2 months into the school year. So that office is swamped with the amount of work that has to get done.
I just wanted to thank you for looking into this. I know it's always a concern of our residents and taxpayers, that all students are properly registered within the school district. I do sort of think that the August timeline would be a little bit more realistic, only because I know we have a lot of concerns about staffing and classroom space and sections for kids, and I just want to make sure that the kids are able to access the classes and that spaces aren't being taken up by students who may or may not be residents.
I would just like to make, if I could, just make a comment on, just so, and I know the board probably hears a lot about children that are not residents of the district, but to be honest with you, a lot of people aren't educated on what is happening. Again, just pure, these are numbers that are true numbers. We have 92 foster families in the district, and we have 298 families that are displaced or homeless. So someone sees a child getting off a SEPTA bus, or they see a child coming from Philadelphia on a trolley, right away they think the child's illegal. And we get phone calls all the time. And again, we don't give them personal information. We look into it, and then again, we just will make a call back saying, hey, they're fine. I can't get into their personal information, but that's just the way it is. I mean, it's just the reality of what people see, but it's not always true.
Yeah, of course. But obviously, going through this re-registration process, you may find students who aren't in those categories. And we do have to be super sensitive to everyone's personal situation. But I just want to make sure that the kids have an opportunity to take the classes that they need, that's all. So, not to be insensitive, just reality-based. We have not done this, like you said earlier, for quite some time, and we don't know really what we're going to see.
Yeah, again, my point wasn't not to do it. The re-registration process, I think, is great. I think it's a great idea that we're doing it, and I think it's even better that we're targeting the two specific grades, leaving, elementary school and heading into the middle school, and then heading from the middle school to the high school.
Just another quick comment. I apologize. Ed Marshallak not only does the presentation that you just saw, but he also oversees this department with this group. So I know he's not up here presenting, but Brian and Ed do a tremendous amount of work with Ed Marshallak. And Ed, since you've come to this district, man, I think you're probably the best at registration in the county. I don't think there's anybody who knows as much about the process of registration as you, man. Way to go.
Thanks, Dan. And again, I'd like to say, again, with the support of Brian and the support of Dan and the support of Ed, it's nice every day coming to work knowing that you have the support and you can bounce things off guys, and they're always there to take your phone call or talk with you about things. So I do appreciate the support from the administration.
So I'll just reiterate, 333 investigations, 86 students disenrolled out of 12,000 students overall? Go ahead.
That's all they can get to right now, that there are investigations.
So far this year?
So far this year. There's a lot that goes on with the number of people there. What they're getting through is amazing. An investigation could take a week or 2 weeks to find out what's going on. It's very complicated. We have ex-police officers in some situations that are on this staff who know how to do this properly, that we've brought on in that office, and they do a wonderful job. But I think the reason why we're doing this is on top of what we found there, and in certain disciplinary situations, I don't want to go into details, there's some things that we're seeing that are popping up that we want to look further into this. So we think that this will give us a better, to Ms. Mitchell's point, I think, a better view of what we're seeing. What Ed was presenting is, when we've been given information on up to 300 and some odd cases, the point is, the vast majority of them, larger than that, can meet the registration process.
Right.
But they still did find close to 100 students, which is almost an entire grade in a school, to Ms. Mitchell's point, that were not technically meeting our registration requirements. What Ed and the team have done, and we've worked out over a period of time, is talk to those families about let's do this instead of going to a hearing. You can withdraw your child and go here, and we'll help send the paperwork. There's an official withdrawal paperwork that can happen as well. A lot of families want to stay here.
Yeah, and again, that's 333 closed investigations. We have open investigations that we're still working, but the actual number that's closed, which we've settled, is 333. And again, a lot of the investigations just come about because people don't come in and change an address, so they may have to be in a different school in Upper Darby. They may not be at a certain school, and they mean to be in another school. Or they switched to a charter school and didn't notify us. So there's reasons. It's not all about just illegal residents.
So I'm going to transition to our last presentation of the night before we get to the policies. So this presentation is very similar to the presentation we heard earlier in the school year when we were talking about Keystone exams. We're gearing up for the next window of assessments, which is the PSSAs. And this is a recommendation by PDE that you publicly review the testing window and the information that parents need to know about upcoming testing. So beginning in April, the end of April, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, from the 25th to the 27th, grades 3 through 8 will take the English Language Arts Assessment for the Pennsylvania State. The following week, we'll transition into mathematics exam on Monday and Tuesday, May 1st and 2nd, again, grades 3 and 8. For the students in grades 4 and 8, they have an additional assessment in science, which is May 4th and May 5th towards the end of that week. Also, just a reminder for any 8th grade student that is also enrolled in Algebra 1, they would be then taking an Algebra 1 assessment as a keystone also later in May, which I'll review in another presentation, but just so you understand the amount of testing that goes in for our students from grades 3 through 8, and then especially those 4th and 8th graders that have that additional assessment that they have to take. For years, we've been giving the state assessment as a paper and pencil assessment. And this year, we are going to look at administering the online PSSAs for grades 4 and 8 for that science assessment. And what that will do is relieve some of the pressure that we're feeling in the buildings with physically having to label hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of books. So the building principals have been coming to me, Greg, and Kelly for quite some time now and saying, please give us some kind of relief. And what we wanted to do was try to get all 3 tests online, but we said, wait, let's take a step back and deep breath, and let's try to implement this just at science right now. I'll tell you why we chose science. Grades 4 and 8 only, so it's a smaller amount of students. Also, we saw a shift in those science standards, and there will be a shift in the assessment as well. So if we're going to look at one example of a test that we can try right now, we thought that maybe the science one would be the best avenue to do it. We also were worried about Bob's team and supporting this initiative. I've been meeting with Chuck, Tim Lambert, Bob, numerous times on gearing up for this online and how we can support the buildings on it. But it does give some more flexibility for our building principals. It gives them time back to less managing of materials, greater test security, and the state is encouraging at this point that districts do move in this direction, but we wanted to take that little step right now. We are that one-to-one school district, so it does give us that ability. So we felt like it was a good year to try to explore this option. So we will be going with an online test for grades 4 and 8 for the science PSSA. What that experience will look like, just real quick for a student, and it does make it a little bit easier even for the student. There is one question per screen, so it's not a booklet that they're flipping through. They still are able to use a highlighter and cross off selections of the test. If it's a multiple choice, A through D, they can say, no way, it's not going to be A or D, so then they're just left with 2 choices. So some big test-taking strategies are in there. They're also able to make notes notes and there's lines to show progress and things like that. Also, at the end, there's a test page summary for the students, so they could see, oh my goodness, I skipped number 5 just as a test taking, and let me go back and now reread and try to answer 5. So there are some features there that the state has built in for the online PSSA and for the students to experience the test differently. Our students are getting very good at taking online tests. We were forced in that direction, and we've been taking the MAP assessment now for quite some time, so they are more used to taking an online test. So that is why we thought that maybe this was the area to start in for this school year. Just some general testing information. Again, this is the same information that we saw for Keystone exams. It does not change for the PSSAs. Electronic devices are prohibited, so no cell phones, no smartwatches, no iPods, excuse me, are allowed in the testing sites. I don't even know if people still have an iPod, but it is still in the guidelines. So they do have to turn in those devices and everything else. We also have to worry about if something does happen that the student does have it on their, kept with them and it does go off, we have to report that. That's more other things that that the principal is responsible for doing, and then we are copied in on all of that communication to the state. But it is a lot of pressure on the buildings during this time. This next piece, Policy 127, is the procedures for exemption from assessments. It is outlined what a parent has to do based on their religious beliefs if they do not want their child to take the test. This will go into all of our communication, and it will also be outlined here for the public to review, as well as with the building principal if a parent does choose to come in and review the test based on conflicts with their religious beliefs. Again, this is the same information that is given during the Keystone exams for any high school students. And that's it for this presentation. Do you have any questions about?
Just a quick one, this may be obvious, but I know now that they can take at least the science portion on their laptops or a tablet, I guess even. It's monitored though, right? They have to take it here and have a
Correct.
administrator or
Yes.
teacher watching, correct?
Yes, all the same security goes into taking the test, all the way down to, we have to print out not a label anymore, but it's called a test ticket, and that test ticket gets shredded like the scrap paper of the test booklets, and all of those security pieces are still in there, as well as the lockdown browser that goes into the Chromebook that Chuck and his team have been really testing out and making sure that everything is ready to go for that, for the devices. You're welcome.
You might have said this and I might have missed it. Are online options available for the other parts of the test? Okay.
So math, ELA, and science are all options to take the online test, but right now we wanted to start
Just
small.
testing the waters with the
Yes,
science
we are
test.
testing the waters. We really wanted to jump into the deep end. As you can see, Dr. McGarry was not jumping into the deep end, but we have heard the principals over and over again that labeling the booklets, the amount of time, the security of it, every part of it. So we needed to see if this is something that we are capable of
So a
doing.
little bit of relief this year.
It's a little bit of a relief. We are hoping by next year, and I'm hoping to get back up here and say we're going to go online, but we really want to see what it looks like for this smaller group of students, still across all of the schools, because all fourth graders and eighth graders would have to take it, but to take the test.
Just a quick question. Would paper versions of the test be available to students in the event that they either don't prefer to use online, or is that like a mandatory thing? They have to use the online capable device?
So you can choose by school if you would like to administer it that, but once you say that they are going to take it online, we have to give it online. They can't switch back and forth. So so right now, when we're going science for fourth grade, all science fourth grade will be online.
What about in the event that there is a student who has a learning issue where it's easier just for them to take a paper test are we able to accommodate that?
So all accommodations are now online. So once you go to the online test, the accommodations that a student would have for special education are built into the system.
Yeah, Christine, I think the other question to that is, in the past, historically, there may have been a Braille, like different kind of test that would be ordered in advance. So yes, there still are opportunities, but the window to order those assessments, the way that you're describing, there's a window of time to do that, and that has to take place. But what I'm hearing Christine say is, so if a student in their IEP needed a paper test, could that still be ordered that way or not? I think that's the question.
So there is a window that the principals have come, I think it's April 10th. April 10th, they can order an additional assessment if they needed to because of for a different reason. I'm sorry, I misunderstood you.
Dr. Kelly, could you speak towards the school's ability to provide Chromebook chargers if a child's Chromebook is running at 2%, when they brought it in the morning?
So we've been talking about that with Bob and Chuck and his team. We will have extra chargers on site, but we will continue in all of our communication to encourage students come in with a charged device. I know my own daughter is going to be in 8th grade taking the test, and charging that device at nighttime will be a reminder that I have to give also. So I do know that it's a challenge. They have no problem usually charging their cell phone, but their Chromebook is a different story. So I do know that that will be a communication that we definitely have to really, really push.
But Dave, to your point too, we're not a school district that uses the cell phone charger as a punishment to kids. In some communities, if the Chromebook wasn't charged overnight, you can't use the Chromebook in school. We'll help the kids charge the Chromebook. Yeah.
Just saying, are the schools ordering more at this point so that way they're ready because the child may not bring in their Chromebook charger? That's all.
We definitely thought about that. Yes.
Any further comments from the board? If not, we can move on to agenda number 5.
Agenda number 5 is our policy 202, eligibility of non-resident students. Mr. Desnoyers?
Thank you. I have a short summary. The board is considering changes to one policy. As Dr. Kelly said, 202, eligibility of non-resident students. As a reminder, these changes will need to be moved forward by the board at this meeting and approved at a subsequent board meeting in order to take effect. A short summary of the changes. The updates to Policy 202 are mandated by changes in PA law regarding students experiencing education instability, and trail updates to Policies 200, 204, 217, 221, and 251, which were also due to the same changes in PA law, and the changes to the other policies received final approval at the March 14th board meeting. Additional information concerning the changes in PA law driving these updates can be found in the Summary of Policy Changes second reading document that can be found in the Policy Report second reading agenda item for the March 14th board meeting. And finally, the board and administration have taken the opportunity to clarify some language in this Policy 202. Thank you.
Any comments from the board on the policy that was reviewed tonight? Thank you. We are now at the time for a public comment this evening. Are there any members that are here present that have any public comment?
Lee Jordan, 90 Pilgrim Lane, Drexel Hill. Re-registration item number 3, which I know is such a sensitive topic. You hear about it all the time, but just something I was thinking, and maybe you've done this before, but do you provide any incentives to the students in the school, to to do this process earlier, when you start on April 13th. I mean, maybe that's up to each individual school, but I'm thinking that could maybe help get everybody, re-registered a little bit faster. And I also think a big part of it too is, like Mr. Monahan mentioned, is educating the community. I mean, can't specifically say who the 92 foster children are or 298 homeless, but, people just don't understand that everybody's entitled to public education. So that's maybe where a lot of the, you hear people talking about, we have, 2,000 illegal students and things like that. So, I mean, I don't know how you do that, but I mean, that's something else to think about. And, something else I always kind of worry about is, the impact on the students, like the first day. I know we're not doing elementary school, but even middle school and high school, when like the process isn't followed and the parents haven't submitted the documentation, just to make sure that that's seamless to the student until everything gets worked through and worked out. Because unfortunately, the cases, in a lot of cases, parents just want to give their kid a better education, and they sign their kids up to go to our school district, and a lot, not understanding the process and things like that. So just some ideas about that. And agenda item number 5 on the eligibility of non-resident students. I know that it's required by the state, but do we get any type of reimbursement from the state when, students who fall into this category, I mean, like any type of aid? I don't know who would answer that question.
So, the language in the policy, there was a minor tweak to language in the policy, and the policy now says the district will only admit non-resident students according to board policy, and so the exceptions are solely due to exceptions based in state law, if I'm correct. The exceptions in our current policies are solely based on exceptions written into state law. Otherwise, you have to have an address in the district to go to school here.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I think your question was whether we get the normal reimbursement that we would get for every other student. And that
Right,
is-
or-
And that answer is yes.
Okay,
They're
yeah.
considered residents, they're considered students, and they're counted in the, I forget what the name of the number is, but it's.
I think there's some confusion to what non-resident and the direct question to the other part is. There are students in foster care or in homeless that are coded with different resident foster, foster non-resident, but were originally here. And so the coding of the students that are either homeless, where they were homeless, and Dr. Urso now handles this. I did a couple of years ago, and Mr. Marshall did as well. There are what are called bid hearings.
Okay.
And you are on a phone call with either our district and an advocate, homeless advocate or a foster advocate. Homelessness and foster care are now separated. At one time, they were somewhat seen as the same. There's a process that is in the best interest of that student. It's a bid best interest determination meeting that takes place. There's documentation that you fill out. If the foster family is getting paid to take care of that child, there's a different reimbursement that school districts get or don't get. Homelessness is a different category. The coding of that homeless is also a different type of reimbursement. So to answer your question, yes and no, depending on the parent being paid as a foster parent, and depending on where that original residency is, and depending on homelessness or not, there is some reimbursement to school districts for homelessness and foster care.
Okay, so it's like a case-by-case basis, then it comes down to. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Dr. Kelly, would you please review your agenda tonight?
Sure. The first agenda item was the Clear Touch technology implementation, which is an informational item. The second item was the Special Education Comprehensive Plan, which is informational, but will start the 28-day public review at this time. The third item is the re-registration process that will require board action at the April board meeting, if we would like to move that forward this evening. And then the fourth item is informational, which is the PSSAs for parent information, and the fifth item was the policy.
Thank you so much. So we only have one item that we need to move forward as a board tonight, and that is the Upper Darby High School Student Re-Registration. And board, would you like to move that forward for the April board meeting?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
also
thank you.
The policy also. The policy.
The policy also? Okay, I didn't hear that. She's, okay. So we also need to move forward the policy this evening. Would you like to move that forward as well?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. I now turn this board meeting back over to President Brown.
Thank you, Director Williams. A motion is in order for the adjournment of the Education and Pupil Services Committee meeting. Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you and have a good night, everyone.